Welcome to Watching the Throne, episode 2. I know you love that theme song.
Bro, I always skip through it in the beginning, but yeah, I just feel like I just felt like playing an air violin for some reason. I don't know what it was, bro.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, everybody. First
I'm
off,
back.
first and foremost, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's checked out this show so far. Our first episode really did really great numbers. Honestly, we had this much better response than we were even hoping for. Quite
Yeah.
honestly, so like that's fantastic. So thank you to everyone who checked out the first episode. AJ,
Oh yeah.
that was a big surprise for us that so many people came across the episode and ended up checking it out. So
It's like, yeah, they actually watching it. So it's like, hey, they're giving us. I keep forgetting it's only a shorter episode. So I was like, wow, they're actually sitting back and watching it. So thanks, guys, and it really it gave more, yeah, like you said, insight, but it also gave us more of a reason to want to keep doing it, right?
yeah,
And keep putting these out for you. So
yeah,
it
no,
should be fun.
absolutely, but I think I'm dialed in, quite honestly. With the 2 episodes in, I'm just like I'm digging the rewatch so far, so I'm liking it. So I think you guys can, you guys have nothing to worry about. I think we're gonna continue on, but and yeah, and
I think it's got me. The second time around, it's got me. I think.
and as I mentioned, as the show goes on, we'll have some exciting news coming up. We have some plans about to bring on some guests, some other co-hosts here from the Late Night Chat Network, as well as maybe some people that have come on the show before that might want to join us. They have favorite episodes that they might want to come on and do with us and kind of break down and discuss as well with us. So yeah, look forward to that. And I think with the finales and maybe the the premieres of each season, like we're gonna be doing those like episodes live and like things like if we do with the guests, we might do live. So stay tuned. But yeah, again, thank you for everybody that's checked it out. But yeah, so basically, yeah, this as we said in the first episode, this is the show where we're gonna basically recap and talk about the Game of Thrones, the original series, and starting all the way from episode 1. So we're for this one now. We're doing season 1, episode 2. The Kingsroad is the name of this episode that we'll be talking about today. And yeah, basically, I'm just going to give a kind of a quick overview of the episode. Then we'll kind of get into maybe some of the questions or discussions that we may want to have on the episode, things that we, maybe weren't clear to us or things that we want to talk about more, things we really enjoyed. As I mentioned before as well, Jay, this is his first time watching Game of Thrones. So please join us on the journey. All these people, all you guys out there who may have never seen this show, you can join Jay here. He'll be watching it also for the first time. And this is actually my first rewatch. So this is literally only the second time I've seen any of these episodes that we're going to be talking about. Like I kind of never went back after I watched it the first time. Right. So, and it's been years. Like I was probably by the end of year 1, like season 1, I started watching it. So
Well, I've got fingers crossed because I just don't want it to mess me up.
In what way?
In the sense that that just the way that it's going to mess me up with the new season, right? Like if it's going to give stuff away, either or, right? So I'm kind of.
I think you'll be good. So that's the other thing, Jay. I just recently heard that apparently the new season, the season 2 of this, I guess maybe they were trying to see if this first season took of House of the Dragon for all you fans of that show out there, because Jay did watch that, and that's kind of what got him into now going back and watching Game of Thrones. He kind of missed out on that whole thing. The season 2 of House of the Dragon is not going to air until summer of 2024, apparently. So we have some time to wait. By the time that show comes back out, we'll have been done this show, and we can probably rewatch House of the Dragon as well if we're enjoying talking about these. So, quite honestly, so yeah, you guys have a lot more episodes to look forward to. Like these are going to take us over a year. Yeah, it's a long time. It's a long time. So I'm not sure if they just weren't sure if this spin-off was going to take off, and they didn't want to invest the time and money into it. This show and House of the Dragon and the new Lord of the Rings are both going to be coming out and they both aired around the same time, are both going to take till summer 2024. So we're looking at like almost 2 years by the time those shows, that new seasons come out. So it's pretty crazy.
For sure, because I mean they got a lot of setup to do with this. It's not like your everyday television movie or
No,
television show or movie or whatever, where it's just basic setups and stuff like that. They don't have to change much. This they got to change the whole fucking background, the landing, and
not
everything. You know what I
not
mean?
only that, I think one can argue it's pretty clear that the production value of this show compared to most of Game of Thrones is actually better.
Far
Like,
better.
yeah, you can tell. Like in
Yeah,
terms of like Game of Thrones got better as it went on, but even in comparison, if you look at these first two episodes that we've talked about so far, it's very clear. You know what I mean? Like when this show started, it was not on the same types of production levels that House of Dragon was. But of course, they already knew that they can bank on this idea of this show because Game of Thrones was already so successful, right? So I think
oh yeah. So they were able to get the money a lot easier this time. This time around than the first time. Yeah.
absolutely. So, all right. So, anyways, let's get into it though.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So, the Kingsroad, season 1, episode 2. So, this opens up with Jorah Morfat. Jorah Mormont. Morfat. I just read my note wrong there. Yeah. Yeah. Jorah Mormont. He's getting to know Daenerys, the Khaleesi, and he's reassuring her that about his past, that apparently reassuring her to kind of get acclimated to the ways of
The tribe.
yeah, exactly, pretty
What's it
much,
called?
right?
What do they call themselves?
The
Man,
Dothraki.
the
The Dothraki.
Thraki. Yeah.
Yeah. So he opens up with them walking along, and she's obviously not too happy about this arrangement that's happened so far. With her basically just having to marry this guy, right?
Yeah.
Jason Momoa's character there, Drago. And they're making their way through the desert, wherever the fuck they're going on their journey, right? And they're making their way to war essentially. Like they're basically, they feel like they have right to the throne, like and as you can see, they're
Yeah.
still trying to fight for that right since losing it, I guess, probably from House of Dragon times, right? When the Targaryens were on the Iron Throne, right? So her and the brother who's a piece of shit, and this other guy now that's joined them that really seems like he has a lot of respect for Daenerys, is trying to like talk with her and have her warm up to their ways, their culture, and how they kind of are, right? And then during this part, it's kind of it's mentioned how Ned Stark apparently stripped him of his lordship, and it's because he was slave trading. So that was kind of discussed here a little bit here. Jorah Mormont, the guy who's talking with the Khaleesi, she mentions in passing about Ned, like he basically ran, Jay, like he's a fugitive, like what I mean. He's like not a fugitive, but he disbanded from he got stripped of he was a lord,
Yeah.
and Ned Stark found out that he was slave trading. He was selling slaves, like people into
Okay.
slavery, and he kind of ran away from being executed. So now he's
Yeah, but
kind
I
of
was
on
gonna
the
say
lam.
they're probably gonna cut his fucking head off or something, right?
So this is
So
why he's trying to align himself with this other group now. He's kind of trying to,
Rocky.
yeah, and he knows the ways of the Dothraki, so he's kind of trying to find a way in. It seems like almost to kind of like side with this woman and maybe be her right hand man of sorts, right? It seems like at this point because he has a
Okay.
lot of respect for her, you can tell, and interest in this family, right? It seems like at this point in time, and he
I
can't go
almost
back.
like that. I almost felt like he was. This is where I didn't know that. I thought that he might have been like his. What do you call it? Her watch already. You know how they for the queens and stuff and
Yes,
things like that. They have their own private watch.
he is not at this point. He's trying to work his
I
way into
figured it's.
that some sort of position. So that's very yeah, that's cool that you've already kind of caught on to that. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's not really at this point. He's more of like an advisor almost at this point. But like you said, that's what those people are. Like the hand to the king.
Yeah.
Those are like they're advisors to them essentially, right? It's
To bang stuff off of it and shit like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
Ideas.
mob, right?
Well, you need somebody to bang ideas out. You can't just talk to yourself, right, all the time.
Yeah, it's like
Right?
it's like consigliere or whatever in like mobs, right? Like in the Sopranos and stuff like that, right? It's the same shit, right? It's,
Somebody does the talking on their behalf, in a sense.
yeah, exactly. So like he's the head, like so he seems to be, but at this point in time, Daenerys is not really have any authority at this moment in time. Okay, like she's with Drago, who's now leading their army. but the brother's still in a position where he's kind of, you know what I mean? So, right. But he feels
He can
you
call
can,
some shots. Yeah.
yeah, well, you could see that he respects her. Like he's there to aid her, it seems like at this point, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And he can't go back. He can't go back to Winterfell or anywhere else because Ned basically he wanted him executed, right? So
Yeah.
he can't go back there. He's, you know what I mean? He's stray now essentially, like outcast.
He's on the run.
He's on the lamb, yeah.
He's
So
on the lamb.
okay, and then we cut to Tyrion slapping the shit out of Joffrey, his nephew.
This was awesome. Okay, this scene was awesome. Now, okay, you got to answer just a quick question. Was he in there? Was he sleeping with the dogs because that's where he sleeps, or is it because he got too fucking hammered and that's where he
got
woke up?
hammered? It's hammered, and also in this episode, you get to know through this scene, he's kind of standing by as well when he gets the shit slapped out of him, and then he's also in a scene later on, which we'll talk about. But the Hound is what they call him. That big fucking brick shit house guard. That's part of their,
Yeah, I was wondering why they were calling him. It's like a dog himself.
Well, yeah,
it's like their
Joffrey
dog.
calling him a dog and a piece of shit and everything else. Like they call him the Hound. That's and
But even the kids, man, even the young ones do too. That's hilarious.
He's
man.
scary. He's a big fucking scary guy, right? Like he's a brick shit house. This fucking guy, right? So like that's what his name is the Hound. And again, as I'm trying my best, guys, not to spoil things for Jay here. He's a character a big character down the road. This guy.
Yeah, that's all you have to say. Is he's gonna stick around. That's all.
Yeah, he's sticking around. He's going to be that's why I kind of try to highlight some of the people you may want to kind of focus on, right? In terms of
I'm starting to see, I'm starting to slowly see that which ones are going to be around. Looks like maybe for a bit. They might throw me off. I like that too, right? So
yeah. But Tyrion kind of puts Joffrey in his place because this kid's a little bit of a shithead. This kid, I'm not gonna lie to you, Jay. I hate this guy. I hate this character. He's as you could tell in this episode, he's a brat. He's a fucking brat. Is
it the one kid that he slapped because he called him a bit, like he said?
That's his nephew. So that's his daughter. That's his sister's kid, Cersei, who is the queen.
Yeah, then he went to go meet up for breakfast with.
That's her kid, that kid. So he's a prince, and therefore he acts as such because he's a dick and he thinks he has all this power, right?
But isn't the little guy a prince too? Of some sort?
No. He's royal family. He's part of royal family.
Royal blood, but
yeah, he's nothing. I mean, he's just the brother of the queen, right? That doesn't necessarily entitle him to anything unless they appoint him with something, as far as I know. Like again, if there is times throughout the show where other people will have different positions in terms of what they bring to the table. So just stay tuned in that sense. But right now, he's just a layabout. He's a fucking man whore who gets drunk all the time, right? Essentially, right?
He's taking advantage of his tripod.
But as you see in this episode, he talks about it a lot in the sense that his lot in life is such because he is a little person, right?
We'll get to that halfway through this episode. Exactly.
Also, I said the wrong I mispronounced the name last episode, so I did catch myself on this one. I called him Brant. His name's Bran. That's his youngest son. Let's not forget. Let's get to that. The way the last episode ended, guys. This guy got pushed through a window, and
so what we seen who he got pushed through the window through, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so we did see who it was, and I just forgot for a second, right? Because it's been the whole week, right?
So Bran Stark got pushed through a window because he caught Jaime and Cersei, brother and sister, having sex with one another.
That's what I thought it was.
Got startled. They caught him catching them in the act, and then basically Jaime pushes him, which he was hoping to be to his death, but he's clinging to life in this episode. Like he's injured, he's laid up.
Looks pretty good for an injured kid, eh?
Yeah. So he's laid up, he's injured in bed. Throughout the whole episode, he's basically knocked out, like in a coma or whatever. Who the hell knows what's going on with him? He's just out of it and being cared for, right? But they are discussing it at this point in time. From there, after he slapped the shit out of Joffrey, he went to speak Tyrion to his sister and Jaime about this in passing, what he had heard happen to him and how, he's concerned, or,
He's being cocky about it.
Yeah. But he doesn't really know what's happened now behind the scenes. He's not in on it, but Jaime and Cersei are like, oh, he's alive. They're like, oh, okay. Oh God, that's terrible. Right. Like you can see the wheels turning. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And he's thinking, man, he knows something's weird.
Right. And then to kind of confirm what's going on and to show, I guess, fake interest, Cersei goes and visits Ned's wife, which I forgot her name. I'll have to look that up. I don't know if you have it there, but his wife, she's by the bedside with Bran, and she goes to visit her, and she tells her to kind of, just that she's checking in on things, and I hope God or whatever that finds a way to save your child. And she mentions that her first child she lost. Like she apparently lost her first child, and this is not something I guess that she was aware of, and like she doesn't talk about. And it seems like there was some honesty in that moment that she was very sad. Like it could have been maybe a child that she had through Jamie, or who knows, right? I mean, because I'm pretty certain Joffrey is hers with Jamie, essentially, if you look at the kid, right? But
well, isn't that Catalina?
Is that her name? Okay, yeah. So
that's the one that was sitting beside the bedside, right?
Yeah, it's his
wife.
Her mom, Ned Stark's wife. So yeah, so she mentions this to her, and then basically you get to it cuts over to Jon, and Jon is now officially joining the Night's Watch. Like there's words gotten around now that he's because in the first episode he had showed interest, and in this episode now he's kind of going around to everybody in this episode and saying his goodbyes because he's about to go join the Night's Watch at the Great Ice Wall, essentially in the Castle Black is where all the Night's Watch operate out of. So now he's going to be going on this journey. He's going to go join his brothers of the Night Watch, become one of them, and protect the realm, right?
His new family.
Protect the realm, essentially, because his Benjen or whatever his name is, his uncle, that he got introduced to in the first episode, who was also in here. You could kind of see him in the background. He's going to go join him as part of the Night's Watch, and he feels like this is his way that he could kind of help out not only the realm but his family. And they have history with joining the Night Watch and everything else, and also he's a bastard son, so I feel like he thinks he's not really part of the group, like in that sense, right? You know what I mean? Like
kind of like the outcast, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. I'm sure some people can relate to that, right? So
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So there's a scene where he gives Arya, who you can see wants to become like a great warrior, it seems like one day, he gives her a sword, a really small.
She's hot now, bro.
And pointy. So what's that?
She's really hot now in real life.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
But she's not a kid. She's a little kid in it.
Young
like,
yeah.
That is Stark's daughter. Okay, so I'm putting it together now.
Arya,
I see the last names here on the IMDb.
Arya's the young girl, his youngest daughter.
The one he gave that, like you said, the blade to.
Jon gives her the sword in this. And then, there's a scene where Jamie comes around when he's out and about, around, hanging around town there. And, he sizes Jon up and starts talking shit about him joining the Night's Watch and everything else, right? Kind of saying, oh, yeah, it's really important what you're going out there to do. Like, he's talking shit, right? He's coming through the shit-eating grin on his face. He sizes Jon up, and he's like, oh, have you used that thing? He's like, yeah. He's like, to actually fight and kill a man? And he's like, no. You know what I mean? He's like, he thinks he just means like like a sparring with somebody or something, right? He's like, yeah, I've used this thing. And he's like, no, you don't know anything about war, because Jamie is the Kingslayer. You know that, right? Like they mentioned that in this episode. He killed the king. He killed the last
Lannister, right? Yeah,
Lannister, Jamie Lannister. So he is considered a great knight. Like he is a great, like in a lot of people's eyes, like in terms of like the stories about him, is that he's a very well respected swordsman, right? Yeah. So it's interesting. But so he comes around, he's talking shit to Jon, and oh yeah, I'm gonna go join the Night's Watch. Like, he's basically like, yeah, it's a joke, right? Like
sucker, yeah.
Right. So that I liked that a lot too. So
but didn't to go fight to go fight the last king, you'd have to have joined. You'd have to be something like that. Well, not really. I guess you just have to be part of the army part, right? Running the Knights itself.
No, because once you serve under the Night's Watch, like that's it. Like that's why
die, right?
It's a very loner lifestyle. Like you're just basically out there in the fucking, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, as time goes on, you see there is certain ways that you could be allowed, given permission to come back under certain circumstances. But like, for all intents purposes there, like they're there, like that's your lot in life. Like you're basically just defending the realm out in the middle of fucking nowhere. That's why so many people, it seems like, look down on it or feel like they're not making a difference out there. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like they don't believe in the White Walker shit. Then what the fuck are you doing out there, right?
Exactly. Like
it's like a joke to a lot of these guys, right? Even Tyrion later on, while they're sitting fireside, and he's like, "Oh, you got to deal with these type of fucking douchebags if you go out there. Oh, you better get used to it. Going to join the Night's Watch, right?" He's like, "Come on, boy, you're not stupid." He's like, "You believe this shit?" He's like, he says that to him, right? We'll get into that. There's a lot of that's a great moment, by the way, later in the episode. It's a great moment. I'm jumping ahead, but it's great, that scene. Yeah. So, but yeah, he says goodbye to Bran as he's on laid. I mean, he's obviously not awake, right?
Yeah.
And then the mother is not very happy. She's like, "Get the fuck away from my child," kind of him. And you know
That's what I was kind of wondering, right? I was like, what was the deal there?
they do explain afterwards. You find out that
Yeah.
Ned, she has disdain for, like, she despises him, it seems like, in that moment, because she knows that that's the child that he had out of wedlock.
Yeah.
That's the he came back from the war, because it's
Okay.
directly after he leaves the room, Ned comes in and she gives it right back to him as well. She's like, "Oh, you're going back off the war with fucking Robert Baratheon. Like, you haven't done enough for this fucking guy, right?" Like, she's like, "Last time you came back, you came with a child. This fucking guy, right?" Like, that's why she's like,
I was like, "You bitch."
yeah, she gives it to him, right? She's like, "Oh yeah,
No, but I get it.
yeah."
I get it why she's giving it to him, but still, man, like the fucking poor guy was in a war, man.
I know.
Like,
She was cutting some slack in that moment, but I was surprised still how she treated John. I guess this is the first time you really see that, like, this aspect of their relationship, and you're really not going to see it for some time now as a result of him leaving. And anyways, there's the whole scene of John later on. He goes out, and him and Ned is going off to war. They part ways. They have like a crossroads of sort where Ned goes off with Robert Baratheon to war, and John goes off on his own way. And he says, "When I come back, we will discuss your mother," because he asks him, because he doesn't actually know anything about his mother and whatnot, right? So, and he has questions, right? And he's like, "When we come back, when I come back, we'll discuss this," he says. And then they kind of part ways, right? And that's kind of, now these two characters are off in two different directions, essentially, moving forward at this point, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, she hates on the bastard son. And yeah, next time we see each other, we'll talk about your mother. And Ned goes to war, and he goes to Castle Black for the Night's Watch. Yeah. And then there's a scene with Ned speaking to Robert Baratheon, that they're sitting on, like, on the sideline somewhere. And he mentioned.
Can I ask you one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you go on quickly, I just want to ask you something about that, because where the fuck they get a nice feast like that in the middle of nowhere? Aren't they just on like horses, bro? They had a nice little setup there and everything. Like, come on, bro.
The king. They probably brought put some shit on ice or something. I don't know.
Chefs with you, like they look. That's what it looked like. They're, like.
And if they were gonna find a way, it would have been for the king during these times, right? You gotta understand that.
Yeah, HBO knows how to do it, eh? Find a way for the king.
But they're sitting there. They're talking about past conquests and women they've banged and shit like that. Chicks with big tits or whatever else that he's talking about, right?
Yeah, he loves his big tits, his beautiful tits. That's what he said.
And in passing, he says, "What was the name of that other one that you were with? Wyla is what they call her." And then they reference this as being John's mother.
Yeah, that's what I noticed that he referenced it.
So make note of that. That's going to come back up again later on. But that's
that name.
So this whole Wyla thing, they kind of just throw it out there. And again, mind you, this being my second time rewatching this, I didn't catch that the first time because I didn't know what the fuck they're talking about. So I had no recollection of that being discussed at this point in time. But they discuss in passing Ned hooking up with a woman that he claims to be John's mother, and her name is Wyla. That's what
I didn't even hear the name. Yeah, no, I know he was throwing names out there, but I didn't hear him agree, sort of. So I wasn't sure.
But then, during this discussion of them having the feast on the side of the road, as you said, they're talking about the impending war, basically, in the realm between them and the Targaryens, because he hears tell of the Khaleesi basically right now with the Dothraki are making their way there. And Ned has, Ned's like, they're not going to fucking come all the way here. He's like, they don't have boats. He's like, what are they going to do? Like, he's
Aquaman. Sorry.
That's true.
No, sorry.
No, that's true. Yeah. So he kind of he's kind of dismissing this whole theory about how they're going to go to war with them. He doesn't believe it, right? He's like, if they do, we'll cut them off. It won't be an issue, right? He basically says, right? But yeah, and then we cut to
teasing.
We cut to some Dothraki cow.
Dothraki thracking.
Khal Drogo having some rough sex with the Khaleesi in the next scene. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, bro. I like this Jason Momoa. I'm sorry, bro. I mean, I'm not his ass scene there, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, I like this character. He's not as wussy as Aquaman. This
He's
guy's a man.
or yeah.
This guy's running the show over there.
Yeah. So we cut from that scene to a quick cut scene of him just fucking drilling her from behind. Like she's getting it. Like he's giving it to her like rough sex. And she's crying because she's fucking like no lube fucking banging the shit out of her.
It comes after a commercial break. Yeah.
Probably in the ass by the looks of it. Like it looks, yeah, like no, yeah, it's dry. Like it looks rough. Like she's crying. So like, you know, she at this point she's had sex, so we know she's not a virgin, but he's drilling her like a fucking warrior, like he is, right? So anyway,
warrior that he is. I like how you said that.
Yeah, and you know, you get the full frontal nudity from her. You see the titties, everything else, right? So
yeah, quick one. It wasn't as good as the first scene. You know what I mean? The first
I told
episode.
you, they're going to become less and less with that actress. I'll spoil that part for you. So this season's the only time you're going to see that chick naked moving forward, I think.
Like,
maybe by the second season you still see her, but after a while you stop seeing her naked. But there's plenty other women you're going to see naked in the show, Jay. I guarantee it. So don't worry about it. But, you know, I'll spoil that for you. I know that's why you're watching this show. Tits and Dragons.
It's beautiful tits, he says. So.
That's right. But then we kind of cut to the scene that, like I mentioned earlier, is one of my favorite scenes in this episode. Is basically them sitting by the fire, and then they're he's making his way to the Castle Black and the Night's Watch, and Tyrion is actually accompanying them. So I think he does have a role right now with the family, which I'm not exactly clear on. I can't recall, but he is doing something with them in this scene. It seems like, because he's not going to go join them on the Night's Watch, but he's with them in this scene. And they're basically accompanying two rapists that they have fucking tied up that are by the fire with them when Ned's chatting with Tyrion. And that's what he says to him. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna have to deal with pieces of shit like this." He's like, He's like, "Listen, they usually have a choice. They either go past the wall or they get castrated." He's like, "These guys are fucking brave enough to go past the wall." He's just like, you know, you're gonna die out there anyways, right? He's just like, okay, like I'm surprised they didn't take the former, right? Like the castration, right? But he talks about and they're taking the wall instead, right? Yeah. And then, you know, Tyrion, they have this great moment where he's like, "Oh, you're reading?" He's like, "Yes, I read."
You read so many books.
I have to be smart. He's like, because I'm a dwarf, and therefore Jamie has all the looks and the you know the skills, and he's like, he has the sword, and I have the mind. That's what he says, right? He's basically, like, he's found his place in society. Yeah. He had to do that. I love Tyrion. Tyrion's my favorite character. So like
he has a good quote in there too.
Tons of good. He hands down, Jay. I think he has the best quotes in this whole show. Is Tyrion's quotes. I love Tyrion's quotes. Like because he has such an interesting perspective in the fact on life, and the fact that it is played by Peter Dinklage, who is also a little, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting that he has to give all these lines about his, like, you know what I mean? Like how tough it is for him, and he has to like figure things out for himself, and this is what I do and everything else, right? He's actually he's one of the smartest characters you can tell, like, already, right?
Yeah, you can totally see that when it comes to that, just the way he, like, in a sense where he does, it's almost like not even acting when he says stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like that's come naturally to him in life in a sense. So it almost portrays in his acting, like, so you at some parts you know that he's acting with certain things, obviously, because he's got to stretch it, but there's certain parts that you know probably are emotional in a sense that he can probably relate in his head to what he has to
pulling it from somewhere. Right.
Yeah,
of course.
He said that line that the mind needs books like the sword needs his whetstone, right? That was pretty cool, like, just to throw that out there just like that.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. He mentions in passing, like, Jamie's the one. He is the Kingslayer. Like, he killed the king. He is good with his sword, and I have my mind, right? Like, he's like, yes, I read. He's like, I have to, like, he knows that if he's gonna contribute anything, it's gonna be that, like, his smarts, right?
Well,
like,
he even said it too, that if he was born a peasant's, you know, son, then he'd probably be put to death or something. Like, it's not like being born into that sort of family. Right, that he's into the wealth, right?
Yeah, he hit the jackpot, right, in that sense, right? Yeah. But he still doesn't have respect, though, from it.
Like, from his peers, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you noticed that.
Yeah. And then, you know, that's when we cut back to again the mother at the bedside with Bran. A man tries to kill him, which I'm sure was put upon them by Cersei, sending an assassin their way because they want to get rid of the evidence. The fact that if he wakes up, he's going to be squealing about who possibly pushed him through
That
that.
was kind of crazy, eh?
Yeah. So a man tries to kill her, and then the dire wolf fucking kills the shit out of this guy, just jumps on him, chews the shit. You can tell that he is his protector, the way he sits on the bed there at the end. But the mother tries to take him out and fails, right? And he's about to kill him and like stab him in the bed, and the fucking wolf comes out of nowhere and just jumps on him and fucking tears his face off, right? But she gets her hands, like the knife slits her fucking hands because it's like rubbing on the knife. Like she grabs the knife with her hands.
She's holding it, yeah.
Yeah, like so valiant effort from the mother. Honestly, she did a good job, but like ultimately she would have failed, but the wolf fucking held it down, the dire wolf, right? He protected
It came out of, was that the Runt one?
No, that's his. That's the one.
His, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, not the Runt one, because the Runt one was Jon Snow's, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. And let's see. No. Okay, then it cuts back to the Khaleesi. It mentions that no dragons have been seen in some time, Jay. They're talking about her. She's talking to a prostitute who basically teaches her the ways of how to take advantage of her man, like take control of her man during the sex, right? Because she's taking it too hard, right? So she needs to flip the tables on him a little bit and take control of him, because he's obviously not used to being dominated in that sense, because he's a warrior like that, right? So the prostitute teaches her, they have a little bit of kind of a foreplay there, and then she teaches her ways of how to like take advantage and flip and turn the tables and jump on top and everything else, right, during sex with this guy, right? So because obviously she's skilled in that profession, right? She's a prostitute, right? But
she had the hip going, hey, she was letting her know, man. She was like, this is we'll teach it.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. I like that. And it is mentioned that like again, like she has the dragon eggs, but there hasn't. She's talking with her about it, and they say how there's been no dragon seen for some time, right? So like it's almost again that it's become like a myth, like of something that they knew of that has existed in the past, but isn't really around at this point in time, right? So that's another interesting thing in comparison, Jay, to House of the Dragon, where dragons are just all over the place, right? This is like almost 200 years later now. No dragons have been seen really for some time, right? So
but then they mentioned somebody was that had killed the last one, or somebody. This is in this episode. I remember hearing mention something, but I don't know who they said it was. I don't know.
No,
right, I'll have to keep my eye on that one.
Then the mother, she speaks to her people there, the other people that are like with the Starks, and mentions that like her son and his friend and everything else, like she said, and the hand to Ned, essentially his assistant there, and she speaks about how she suspects that somebody made an attempt on Bran's life twice now as a result of this recent assassination attempt, right? Because she makes the point of like she doesn't think that he would have fallen out of the window and everything else, right? And I think she has there's other reasons why I think she said she suspected it, but I can't recall why right now. But yeah, she basically says like, listen, someone's coming at Bran for whatever reason, I don't know, but this is the second time I feel like, and she calls it. She's like, I think it's the Lannisters, right?
Yeah, so she said she had mentioned something like that. She said, but who was she saying that to at that point?
Because she's saying it to the guy that like the Ned's like
almost like the guy that just wants to go out there and let him know himself.
His counsel, essentially, like, which is her son Rob, and then the kid, the redheaded kid who's helps Rob, like his friend that said I'll go out there and get. He tries to say that she wants to go bring word to Ned that this went down, the mother, and then she basically says like, I'm gonna go out there, and then Rob's friend there like wants to go in her place. She's like, no, I can do that, and then she's like, no. And then Rob wanted to do it for her, and she's like, no, there must be a Stark in Winterfell. Like there always has to be a Stark in Winterfell. She says, like, she's very clear on that.
Back home,
yeah, we need somebody here representing.
She didn't want to send it on a Raven. I remember her saying she didn't trust the words on a Raven.
She doesn't know. She doesn't trust what's going on. Period. Right now, with them being
no accusations, right?
Right. So, yeah, and then really the last part of the episode, the last big scene of the episode, you could say, there's a scene with Sansa and Joffrey. Joffrey comes there and he's calling her his lady, and he's trying to woo her, and they go out like on a date almost, like kind of walking around, right?
That
And the
was pretty.
Hound
Okay.
is accompanying them, right?
Yeah.
And already Sansa, she's so full of herself, thinking that, you know, she's the shit because the prince has his eyes on her, and she's like giving into that whole thing, right? Swigging the booze he brings, the wine, yeah. Right? So they go down to the water and they see Arya playing around with a friend of hers who's the butcher's son of Winterfell, I guess, and they're sword fighting, and she's got the sword and he's got like some wooden thing, right? And they're kind of sparring, a stick of some sort. And Joffrey's like, "Oh, you're gonna hurt my love's sister or whatever.
Yeah.
How dare you?" He's like, "Put up your sword." He's like, "Sir, my prince." He's like, "My lord." He's like, "I'm not your lord." He's like, "Oh, my prince or whatever." He's like, "I'm a prince or whatever." He's like, "No. He's like, "I'm sorry. Like, we're just playing around. Like, it's like this isn't a sword, right?" And this fucking guy tries to come at him with a sword, right? And so Arya defends him, fucking this guy then starts fucking crying, gets hurt, starts crying
like a little bitch,
a big fucking coward that he is, right? And he falls. And Sansa, all she doesn't even care. This guy's swinging a sword at her sister. She's like, Arya, stop! What's wrong with you? Like, it was just disgusting. Like the whole like shit that went down is just like terrible. Like this whole scene.
Typical brother sister and everything. Really, no, it's awesome. It's the same, bro. Back you and then.
Just terrible. It's just terrible. Kids are terrible, right? So like, yeah, this shit's going on, right? And and because he gets embarrassed and everything else when he runs to get the Hound and he runs to get his men and everything else.
Yeah.
They the butcher's son, he ran off, and Arya throws a sword in the water, and because she's trying to she's like, I fucked up. Yeah, I'm in trouble, so I'm gonna get rid of the evidence. And the butcher's son ran off. And the dog, again, the dire wolf that's Arya's, attacks him, and then she makes him run off because she doesn't want him to get hurt, because she knows that they're gonna go get the cavalry now, like the king's men.
They're coming.
Yeah, and she throws a rock and tries to tell him to fuck off for a bit. And the dire wolf, again, in defense of Arya, because he's swinging a sword, bites his arm. Like he starts biting Joffrey's arm. Yeah. So, anyways, the show concludes in this whole scene of Ned sitting there with his friend Robert Baratheon, the king, and they're trying to like figure things out because their kids are at odds right now. Joffrey's saying that Arya and everything else attacked him, and blah blah blah. And then they call in Sansa to basically tell them the truth. They're like, "Well, Sansa, you're the third party in this. Like, what happened here?" And she's like, "I can't remember. I didn't see it." She's trying to say it like because she doesn't want to blame Joffrey because she like thinks that they have a thing, and she doesn't. Obviously, it's her sister, so she doesn't choose sides. Which she should, because Joffrey's in the wrong here. What he did, right? It's terrible. And
it's terrible.
It is what happens, bro.
Trying to get the sister drunk and then trying to kill the other sister. Like, come on, man. What kind of kid is that?
Fucked up, man. So I just hate Joffrey. He's a piece of shit, man. I hate Joffrey. So as a result, Baratheon there, the king gets up. Mm-hmm. Robert Baratheon gets up and he's just frustrated. He's like, listen, the kids are going to be kids. Like, nothing will come of this, essentially. Ned, make sure you discipline your daughter. I will do the same with Joffrey. Yeah. And that's the end of it. And he gets up, he's all frustrated. And then Cersei, being, the evil cunt that she can be as well at times, she wants revenge. She's out for blood now at this point. So she's like, okay, well, in response, we're going to kill your dog then. We're going to find your dog, the dire wolf, and we're going to kill the wolf. And because he fucking attacked Joffrey then, if we're not doing anything else here. And then she starts crying and she's like, listen, and it's like, no, we tried to find the dire wolf. We couldn't find them. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, kill the other one then, the one that's here. And that's Sansa's dire wolf. And then she starts fucking crying. And all of a sudden, all the kids are crying. And then Ned's like, turns around, and Ned, again, this is his boy. Like, he has done everything for this man, the king, right? Like, he turns around and he's like, is this your call? Like, is this what you're saying needs to go down? And he doesn't want any part of it. He's like, yeah, whatever. It's a dog. Like, he just fucking like fuck off. Like, he basically walks off, bro. Like he wipes.
A wolf's not a dog. No, that's what he said, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So he turns back and he looks at him and he just walks off, storms off the king, and he just leaves it be. So like he has no choice. So then Ned ultimately is like, okay, fuck it. Like, I'm going to kill the dire wolf then. I will do it. Don't let these people touch him. I will take care of this issue then. Take the kids to bed. I got to deal with this mess now. And the episode ends with him going up to the dire wolf, very sad. And, it cuts scenes. You don't see him kill him, but then Bran's eyes open up in the bed. And
Of course, howling and whatever. Yeah, all of a sudden you hear the brand in the bed.
right.
That's kind of weird.
So that's episode 2, the Kingsroad. So Jay,
But
any
they did
any
that.
questions or anything, comments?
Well, I'm wondering, like especially with that scene. Okay, did he, obviously, I'm guessing he had to kill the wolf, that one wolf, right? If it howled like that, I'm suspecting off camera the wolf was killed, right, by Stark, by Ned. He had, obviously you hear it. So I hear that. You know what's funny about that? Just in that scene alone, they'll let you watch everybody else get killed and slain and whatever like that, and chewed up and whatever. But God forbid, man, they show you look like you're pretending to hurt a dog.
They would have more people complaining about that scene than you would anything else, like animal cruelty on
Yeah,
shows.
or
People are
poor what's her name getting it up to from Momoa.
right. Who cares about that? Right? People, no, it's true. When it comes to animals, Jay, people
Yeah, you
don't
can't
fuck
no
around.
cruelty. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
and
don't. I
who
know.
knows? Is he dead? I don't know. I guess we'll see, right?
Yeah,
But
I didn't know. That left me with one of those. It's like motherfucker again. Now I gotta watch. I don't want to watch the next episode until we got to record it. So it's like, I kind of leaving it open in case you kind of hint off towards something that goes that way, and I'm like, fuck.
I think
But yet I'm asking you.
well, I think it's interesting because, like, obviously these dire wolves are connected to these children already in a big way,
Yeah. Fuck.
right?
Well, they grew so much since the first episode.
Yes. And not only that, like, they are their companions. They defended them left and right in this episode. You've seen them defending them in 2 different instances. Like you said, they're big, the actual wolves, man. Like, right, these things, they're big, right? They're big, dangerous creatures. And not only that, like, you know, the fact that he woke up at the time of possible execution of one of these, there's a connection between these guys, I would say,
Oh,
right?
for
Like,
sure.
it's interesting that they coincided, that moment of him opening his eyes, with the fact that possibly one of these dire wolves got injured, right? So
So
it's yeah, so it was a really well done scene. I think all that stuff leading up to that, like, it sucks, it is terrible because I felt bad for the way everything played out, and they went about it in a terrible, fucking vengeful, bloodthirsty way. Like, Cersei did not have to make that, you know what I mean, make that choice, but yet she went out of her way with Joffrey to get back at them, in a sense, right? Like, there's already a lot of blood thirst going on between these two
family, yes.
families. Yeah, there's a, you can tell and now the fact that Robert didn't respect Ned's family, and to his face, basically, like, he said, like, I don't care, like, this is, yeah, because that's what he said. He makes it clear. He's like, is this your doing? Are you allowing this to go down? Because I need to hear it from you. You're the king, and I'm
What does
doing
he
you.
say?
Yeah,
What's
I
that
forget what he
word?
says, but he says that, like, is this your declare
Command or something.
Yes, he leaves the ball in his court because he says, listen, like, is this you making this choice, or are you gonna let them fucking make this choice for you, right? So he leaves it up to him. But anyways, yeah, so it's
I'd like to see how big these fucking wolves actually get, man. I'm starting to feel like they get big, but I don't know. Maybe not dragon big, but
no.
it'd be cool if that was the case. And then it'd just be like some of the other shows we watch. But no, so by the end of this episode, they did make it to King's Landing, right? So but by the time the picnic happened in the thing and everything, and the time that he had to kill the dog, they were back at King's Landing, or he was already back. Stark was already back.
They had come back, obviously, because and I don't think that was really explained very well, but I think you're right. I think they did.
Because I wondered how they came back if they had just left there.
I think the one thing this show lacks in at times is explanation of time lapse. Like, because, like,
Big time.
obviously there's some time that already elapsed within episode 1 and episode 2.
Yeah.
And I feel like as time goes on now, the show is going to slow very much down, Jay.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the last seasons of the show, it speeds right the fuck back up. Like, they try to cover a lot of ground. And I will tell you, that was one complaint from fans of this show, was how they dealt with the jumping of time. Like, if you think House of the Dragon was bad with how they did it, that's kind of how it was towards the end of Game of Thrones, because this was a show where they drawn out They drew out so many years of this show. Like it was, like
in a
inches.
short
Like it
span.
felt like, yeah, like it felt like the storylines were barely moving forward. A lot of them, and then some
It
of
would
them,
jump.
yes. So I
You,
think that that's always been an issue with this show. I feel like for some is that they don't deal with time lapses and time jumps and how long they should dedicate to certain things. I feel like the pacing has always been not great because they tend to focus on some stuff that you feel isn't as important, and then other shit they barely give you any time with, and
well,
you're
that's what I've noticed.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
like
I've noticed that with this, and it's already becoming a little bit irritating, in a
this is
sense.
nothing. This is nothing right now. I'll tell you that right now. This is
But
nothing. But it was confusing. I'll give you that. It was. It
in the
was.
House of Dragons, I noticed they do slowly somewhere in the episode
Yeah.
they mention how many or roughly how many years have just passed.
I think it's just because they gotten better at it. Because, like I
Yeah,
said,
it's hard.
that was the number one complaint. Like, okay, for instance, like again, we'll get there. But in the last season of the show, this isn't spoiling anything. There's a moment where they have to go on a boat to travel somewhere.
Mm.
It takes an episode. Whereas in the past seasons before that, it would take a whole fucking season of these guys on the boat. Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, but they only had like 6 episodes or something in that last season. So they're like, well, we
yeah.
really need to speed things up here. But it's just like, right? It's just kind of a piss off because you're like, how are you going to spend fucking so much time on this boat the season before, and then this next one you choose to wrap it up in one episode, right? So it just, pick a lane. Like I hate when they do the shit like that because they're like, was all that really necessary? And as this show goes on, you're gonna see there's a couple of people's storylines, the way they go, that I completely dislike. Like there's a couple of characters because they branch off into a bunch of different storylines as we progress on. Jay, you'll see.
I'm starting to notice slowly
Yeah.
something.
But even now, with like Ned going one way and John going another way, John's gonna go off on his own now. You're gonna see a whole adventure with John. Like that's
He's gonna be
basically
his own
what we're gonna
person.
focus
Yeah.
on. Yeah, and that's fine. But like, not everyone's story is as interesting as the next. So sometimes you spend time with characters that you don't care for, and you're like, but I get it. There's like fucking 30 characters in this show. You need to kind of spend some time with all of them, right? I think in that sense. But like some of them is just like, why are you spending time with this fucking guy so much? This guy. So it's.
Well, that's what I find too, right? I mean, like, I know it's gonna start splitting up, so I got to really try to start focusing on the way I'm writing stuff. Like, I'm starting to get better with the names. I am. It's funny because I am writing it down the right way as you're reading along. I'm reading with some of my notes that I got to, and I am reading that. So I kind of got just the gist of the layout right now.
Yeah.
I might not know them by their names and able to pronounce them like you are right now and all that crap, but in that sense, like I know who they are in the show. Now, I can't wait to see where this is starting to go because it is getting interesting. I really, like I said, I really am digging the little the little midget. Sorry, I a little person, whatever they call him. He calls himself a dwarf. Like, am I allowed to call him a dwarf?
In the context of talking about the show, sure, because that's what
Okay.
he's referenced as in this. Yeah, because again, this was of a
And
time.
I'm just trying to be polite, right?
No, I get you're trying to be politically correct. I get it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, he's referenced as a dwarf. I said that. He says that he was a dwarf. I talked about it already in this episode. Right?
I'm not even trying to be the politically correct. I'm just trying to be polite about things. I'm not even
Sure.
really, like I said, I don't want to sound like an asshole saying
You're
it.
talking about it in the context of the
Yes.
show. I think it's fair to call him that. Yeah,
But I
we're not talking about Peter Dinklage. We're talking about Tyrion, the character in the show.
yes, we are. We're talking about his character, and like I said, he's been right now. I think he's the most understandable character in a sense because
Yeah.
he's intriguing. To be honest with you,
I'm happy you like him because that's my favorite character. Probably like out of all the characters, he's my favorite character here. And so like that's
he reminds me of I don't know, man. Like I don't even, I see it when I tell you he reminds me, I'm gonna be insulted. But I don't want to be that, so I'm not gonna say it. But it's just so cool. No, not of a person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just don't. You want to be politically correct, so I don't want to say it right now. But we'll keep it that way, right? I'm doing a good job of keeping it the way it is. But yeah,
Anything else?
and I think honestly, okay, we haven't seen much of him doing much except banging.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure I find that is this sort of what makes Jason Momoa who he is in a sense, because this character is a hell of a lot better for the 2 scenes that I seen him than that whole fucking Aquaman movie. I'm sorry.
This is what made Jason Momoa was his character.
Like,
This was his big breakthrough.
well, he did his ass scene over there at the end there, right? He did the ass
this
walk.
this was his breakout role.
He tried to do the
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze.
Like he wouldn't have gone
Roadhouse.
Aquaman, I feel like, if it wasn't for Drago. Like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
he played. I mean, like, let's put it this way: after he played Drago, he played Conan. As much as that movie wasn't great, he didn't do a Conan movie right after this. After depicting, like, of course, they thought of him as Conan, seeing him on this show, right? Like, of course, you had to have seen that. The people that made that film were like, "Oh, let's cast this fucking guy who played basically a Conan-like character already, right? Like, why not, right? He's just less, I would say, even educated than Conan. This guy, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like, I mean, the way he just has to moan. That's basically all he has to do in this fucking this episode. He doesn't say it is no. That's it.
But the women love him. Okay?
Yeah.
But the women love them.
Well,
right?
I can see why in that sense, right? Don't get me wrong. Like, they must have loved that when this is the second episode, you already get an ass scene from him, and those girls must have been all up in this. That's why there's so many women that like this show. I've noticed that. Maybe this is what got them hooked.
Well,
but,
that was a very popular Halloween costume, was Daenerys. Like that was that
her.
Whole, both of them, really. Those were very good. That were a couple of costumes. Like, people were dressed up.
I mean, he looks just like Jimmy's Superfly Snookum from back in the day, like on wrestling, bro. So it's kind of hard to take him seriously right now, because he does. He looks like a wannabe wrestler in this sense. But no, the other thing I'm still having a hard time with this. Like, this is a great thing, but just, you got to remember, the ages are fucking me up when they're telling me that they're 9 years old already and their mothers are giving them away. Like, this is fucking me up, man. Like, it really is, because you got to remember, okay, yeah, if obviously people weren't living to be, 100 basically like they are nowadays, and the average lifespan was probably, let's say, back in the day, 30 to 50, right? At the most, if you didn't catch a cold, right?
Right.
Like, now we're not even worried about friggin' COVID. We're worried about a cold back then.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, I understand that, but I'm still having a hard time because the actresses and the actors and actresses are that age. So it's throwing me off when they talk about it.
Yeah.
Just because it sounds almost disgusting. It does. I mean, it is disgusting. It is disgusting, but it sounds and you visualize it. The visual is there. That's the problem.
Listen, you already watched House of the Dragon, where they're talking about these girls that are 9 that were trying to wed the king, right? And they weren't.
But they looked a little older.
Not really. There was that one girl, the Valerian one, who was straight up looked like she was like 9 years old, and like she
just got her period. Yeah, I know that one with the blonde, the hair with the curls.
You're not gonna have a baby for another couple of years. They told her whatever. It was like, Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Like,
it's hard, bro. That's hard.
Talking about sex with a 9-year-old right now. Yeah, and then there was the whole touchy-feely moments between her and the uncle. Like, so they definitely skirt that line of, like, it's very wrong, a lot of the shit that goes on in these shows. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're far from prudes in that sense. Like, they're going for some risque fucking type shit in these shows. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not even just straight up things that are not even right by not even just not right by today's standards, but even in the context of these shows, it's wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it really is. Like, there's a lot of reference to, like, the fucked up shit that happens in this world, but they're just like accepting of it. Like, just like how we are with some fucked up things that happen in our society. It sucks, but we know this shit happens, a lot of this fucked up shit, right?
I know. And it is messed up. It's just hard to actually see the visual, like when they're talking at that person on the screen. Like, I mean, especially if there's kids that are that age.
I know.
They're acting like adults the way they're talking and stuff, but they're still kids in that sense.
Right.
So, but what's her name there too? I mean, she's only got to be that's married to Dosaki's guy, or what are Dosaki's?
The Dothraki Drago.
The Thrakis, yeah. So Drago there. What's her name? The Targaryen, right?
Yeah,
Daenerys. She is probably only 14, apparently. Like at the time that they send her out to get married. There, obviously, she's an older woman because she's taking her clothes off, right? At that point in the acting career, right?
Yes.
but she couldn't be much older than the legal age. It's just to act at that age.
The problem is that they feel as a society, though, they have to put these people in place to move forward in terms of allegiances in war and
In
royal.
case somebody gets sick quick.
That's so they really are being forced into these positions. And I believe between even the start of this show and what you've seen in House of the Dragon, like with her friend that ended up marrying her father, the king, and she's being forced into that situation because her father, that was the hand, wants to have shit going on with the you know what I mean, like he wants to be in control there. We already seen that scenario play out on House of the Dragon, right? Like they're not happy in these situations. A lot of the time they're being forced into these situations. Even the
Arranged.
Daenerys doesn't want to fucking be married to this guy at first. She's trying to make the best of it, but her brother wanted an army. So that's the reason he forced her into this fucking thing, gave her his sister away to these people. So that's what I mean. You're going to come across some despicable acts and people in this show.
Thank God I never had a sister, bro.
Right? So
that means the older brother? No.
Anything else though? Final thoughts, because we're going in our time.
Yeah.
So anything?
I wanted to ask a quick question. Is there still this guy still writing the books for this thing? I heard that
he never finished it.
Was that you that said it, or was it Leslie? I think one of the
I did on our first episode.
Yeah, you did, right?
The books. Yeah, he is
so,
not the books.
He must be wondering why he's the fuck. He's supposed to be rolling in the money.
Yes, and that's why I think a lot of people have criticized him, because not only is he helping with producing with this new show and the last show to wrap up, and while not finishing his book, he's also going off and doing other shit now too. He actually just wrote the concept for a video game that just came out from PS5 this year called Elden Ring, which is a lot like a Lord of the Rings type of like Game of Thrones type shit going on. So people are already criticizing, oh, so you can write fucking plots for video games, but you can't fucking finish your book that's loved by millions of people worldwide. Yeah, he is. Yeah. He is in some hot water, this fucking guy, George R.R. Martin, who's the creator of Game of Thrones. There's a lot of people now that have really turned their back on him and their, how much they admire this guy in terms of like his output or what he's created, because he hasn't finished the book for years and years and years. It seems like he's just walked away from it. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, oh, well, the show told you how it ends, so I'm not going to bother. Feels like, right? Yeah.
Is it called Game of Thrones too as well, the book?
First book is called Game of Thrones, and then there's different names that it is the Game of Thrones kind of series, but the first one is called A Game of Thrones, and then it goes on. It's like, it fucking
Song of Ice,
Clash of Kings, or was that a video game? I don't fucking know. Anyway,
but yeah, man, I can't wait for the next talk, bro. Honestly, like this whole thing has got me interested again, right? And then like it's hard, it is a hard show to watch sometimes especially when you're taking notes, right? Because I'm watching it for the first time and trying to take notes on it.
It'll get easier because I think after a while you'll be able to look at the screen and take notes and be like, this character, and just know their names, right? Yeah. Or like you'll at least be able to reference
4 pages. So
there you go. But anyways, guys, as I mentioned before about these shows, we're gonna try to keep these a little shorter, under an hour, around 45 minutes if we can. As you can tell, we went a little over, still trying to kind of contain all of it. But anyways, we're going to try our best with that, and make sure to check these out. Leave us a comment if you have any questions about this. Let us know if you're watching this show for the first time. And look forward to the next episode that we discussed, Jay. That's going to be a lot of fun. This is really good so far. I'm enjoying it. So
it's really interesting, buddy.
Yeah, man. Okay, we'll see you guys next time. And I think we're going to be trying to drop these every Thursday for the most part, guys. But follow us on Instagram, Late Night Chat Network, for all of our updates, or make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that like button and the notification bell to be notified of when these episodes drop. You'll get a little notification on your phone. It'll let you know whenever these drop weekly. These come out weekly. That's basically what we're going to do. So, okay.
Yep. Perfect.
Later, Jay.
Later, bro.